Good morning. Good morning, dear colleagues. Happy World Water Week. And many thanks for your presence, and thank you so much for being here as part of the session entitled Groundwater, Making the Invisible Visible, as always, taking the slogan back from 2022. And we are pleased to co-convene this session along with all our co-conveners, and thanks to them, of course, the co-conveners for this session is UNESCO, IHP, we're having also IWMI, we're having IGRAC, and we're also having Jeff IW Learn. And we are glad to just introduce this session to you, in which the session is very, I think it's brief but interesting, and the way it's organized, I think we wanted to have like something interesting, unique, and different to be able to showcase a bit of real groundwater projects or around the world, like from different regions, and also to highlight different type of innovative groundwater basically strategies that we're trying to follow, like whether it goes from really the transboundary cooperation, nature-based solutions, but also the interesting part of it, like we're having this new Kilimanjaro project, which I'm really very proud of, like to see this interface between the glaciers and also the groundwater. I think I hope you will enjoy it. Also, it goes along with a lot of tools, a lot of different tools and methodologies that has been implemented by the different coordinators of these 5 projects that we'll be presenting today. At the different stakeholders engagement with multiple partners engaged, like from governmental actors to local communities, different stakeholders, but also the closest to my heart is also engaging how we are engaging youth and gender components within all the projects, in which we are really proud that it's part of all our different projects that we are implementing all together. And lastly, of course, like how we are trying like to implement the different SDGs across the different projects. Of course, definitely SDG 6, but it goes along to 17 to 13 and multiple others. So without really wasting so much of your time for these boring introductions, and I know it's morning, but I'm very glad to see the room is almost full. We are having the agenda of the day is small introductory opening remarks with one keynote presentation from IGRAC, presenting the latest updates regarding the transboundary aquifer maps. I believe everybody in the room almost are, I would say, groundwater fanatics. They love groundwater, so you know how IGRAC is doing a great job in doing this mapping. We're also having 5 projects, which like the first one of them, like in Kilimanjaro, as I mentioned. Second one is the Mediterranean region. Third one goes to a Guarani aquifer in Latin America. Having also one in Dictas in the Drin karst aquifers, and also the last one would be also in Africa. It was a very, very interesting methodology. And so without going further, but maybe let's try to engage you more. Just wake up, exercise, please. Get your phones out, scan the QR code. Very simple, easy questions, but I think it will help steering around the discussion. Have 1 minute, try to scan it, and then once you're done, let me know so that we start sharing the questions. Mm-hmm. Can we share the answers? Yeah, perfect. Okay, almost there. Okay, cool. We go to the next one. Just to know who's around, what are the different backgrounds we have in the room. A little bit more. Mm-hmm. Cool. Wow. We have a quite private sector domination here. International organizations, it's a tie. Damn, youth is always coming last. Okay, very cool. Let's go to the next one. When you hear the word groundwater, what comes to your mind? It's a simple word cloud, just to see. In 2022, we're really pushing for this invisible visible. 3 years later, what's happening? And half. Ooh. Sustainability. Large quantities. I would hope so. Yes, it is overlooked. Clean, not necessarily. It's abundant. Wow. Recharge, yes. Depletion, yes. It seems depletion is getting its place in the cloud with aquifers. Depletion of aquifers, yes. Accessibility, overexploitation, definitely. What is the fantastico? Okay, perfect. Fantastic. Okay, it seems we will never finish. Next question. Okay, I think you're awake enough, so this is great. Okay, the last one. It's really by order. You can just grab, right? When you see the greatest challenge, how would you rank them? Just grab it. The first one, just drag and drop to the first and second. And I believe based on your own. Yes, see? And based on the different rankings, this is just showing us like really what you would see as the greatest challenge. So if you started pushing more for pollution, it will come up first, of course, but it's all your ranking. I wanted to do other, but I just only had like 6 options, so I'm sorry. But actually, these were based on the challenges that we identified in the Groundwater Summit. That was really the main 6 items in which we mentioned like regarding to the challenges related to groundwater management. Fantastic. Okay, I think it gives us really a quite interesting insight. Okay, that sounds good. Thank you so much. Thanks for the quick activity. I think we can, without further ado, I believe I can hand the floor to Simone Grego, the Chief Interim for the Groundwater Sustainability and Water Corporation of UNESCO, for a quick, small opening remarks. Simone, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Mahmoud. Can you hear me?
Yes, and in a second,
well.
we can just, perfect. Okay, you have the floor. You have
yes,
4 minutes.
Thank you very much.
4 minutes, please.
Mahmoud, thanks for the lively introduction. It was very interesting to see the results of this quick poll. Let's put it like that. And very interesting to have that participants of private sector. It's something we need to keep in mind for the future. Anyhow, good morning, colleagues. Colleagues from the GEF, from IGRAC, IWMI, UNESCO, dear participants and dear friends. It is a pleasure to open the session today on behalf of UNESCO and of the Division of Water Sciences in UNESCO and of the Intergovernmental Hydrological Program. This is a special year for UNESCO and for the water community at large. A few weeks ago in Paris in June, we celebrated the 50th year of the Intergovernmental Hydrological Program. These are 5 decades dedicated to advancing water sciences, cooperation, and innovation for development. Groundwater in these 50 years has been at the heart of this journey from the very beginning. From the first global mapping of aquifer to the development of methodologies for assessing and monitoring groundwater, UNESCO has worked tirelessly to turn what once was an invisible resource into a recognized pillar of water security and sustainable development. This is testified also by SDG 6 if you have a look at it. We have fostered scientific research, we've built capacity over the past 15 years and helped member states to establish cooperative framework with a specific niche, which is the niche of transboundary aquifer that cross political borders but should unite communities through shared water. In this 50 years journey, there are several milestones. I'll try to be quick and start, let's say, from the end. The UN World Water Development Report in 2022 focused entirely on groundwater for the first time. And this helped bringing the global attention on the role that groundwater has in resilience, in food security, in ecosystem health, and in general, in improving the life of people across the globe. In 2022, the UN Groundwater Summit brought together around 5,000 participants, a part online, a part in person, bringing together scientists, policymakers, civil society, and youth, to unify global groundwater action. And 2022 was also declared the Year of Groundwater. And this was a call to elevate groundwater to the global agenda and making it more visible. Beyond that, if we dig a bit in the past, UNESCO's legacy in groundwater includes shaping the 2008 UN draft article on the law of transboundary aquifers. Through the ISARM initiative, UNESCO has mapped and promoted the governance of several hundreds of transboundary aquifer systems. Programs like GRAPHIC have advanced understanding of groundwater interaction with the water cycle within climate change pressures, and this is very relevant today, as you know. And since 1975, so we really go back, UNESCO's Working Group on Land Subsidence, known as LASI, today known as LASI, has led 4 decades global research of a niche topic, which is groundwater-induced subsidence, and produced critical knowledge and risk mitigations approach for this. And this is a unique within the UN system. At this point, I would like to use this opportunity to extend our sincere thanks to the Global Environmental Facility, the GEF, whose long-standing partnership with UNESCO has supported a huge portfolio of groundwater projects, helping groundwater to move from being invisible to being more visible. From the Dinaric Karst aquifer system in the Balkans, passing through the MED program in the Mediterranean with a unique focus on coastal aquifer, which is one of the niches UNESCO is working on, through the Guarani aquifer in Latin America, the CMDA in the Mekong Delta, again, a coastal aquifer in a specific delta setting, and the Kilimanjaro water tower in East Africa, just to name a few. These projects do much more than simply manage and govern water. They build resilience, strengthen cooperation, and strengthen communities. So today's session builds a bit on this legacy. We will explore concrete, on-the-ground examples on how groundwater is being managed, mapped, and governed to adapt to climate change, water security supplies, and support sustainable livelihood. You will hear from several projects, probably 3-4 minutes per project across continents, each in a different context, but united in a common goal, which is to safeguard this precious resource and bring it more visible to those who take decision on water, those that we call within the water box. As we look to the future, our challenge is clear. We must continue to make the invisible visible, not only in science, but in scientific understanding, management, governance, finance, and public awareness. We should invest in innovation, foster partnership, and ensure that youth, women, and vulnerable communities are not just beneficiaries, but become active leaders in governing groundwater. So I invite you all to use today's session to share, exchange, connect, because the solutions we share here will help us, UNESCO, and the partners shaping the next chapter of groundwater sustainability. So with this, I close my intervention. Thank you very much, and I look forward to listening to the rest of the deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simone, and many thanks for the opening remarks. And it seems that I mentioned it's me who is not really awakened yet. After 3 cups of coffee, I even didn't introduce myself. I'm Mahmoud Radwan. I'm also an associate program specialist in UNESCO headquarters in Paris. Okay, thanks, Simone. We invite our second opening remarks from Mohsen Hafiz, the Director of Water, Food and Ecosystems at IWMI. Please, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to provide the opening remarks for the groundwater session, where we are talking about groundwater, which is invisible, how we could make sure that it's visible. Groundwater is essential for domestic, for agriculture, and for industrial purposes. And this session, which we are talking about, we are looking around the climate for action and saying how the groundwater is being used, shared across the transboundary aquifers. There are around 400 transboundary aquifers across the globe. And one of the important things is that when we are looking around the transboundary aspect, we need to make sure that we are conserving the groundwater in a way and in a way so that it's long-term sustainable. You have seen the Mentimeter questions, which was saying the number one priority was talking about the over-abstraction, which is a very common in the context of the Asia. And in Africa, the things are being developed. Groundwater is not yet fully explored. Just taking the example of Asia, around 30 million tube wells are existing in part of South Asia only, in India, in Pakistan, in that one. Around 1 to 2 million tube wells are again installed on a yearly basis. What that means, there is severe groundwater exploitation, the depletion is happening, and also that created imbalance on aquifer, and that's impacting on all the sectors. So what we are, in the context of today, we are looking at for the transboundary context. And in the transboundary context, as the part of this session is about the JEF transboundary water management project. As you will hear that about more on the IMI is working on one of the JEF project on a transboundary water management. The project is working in the part of it's supporting the one portion of the IMI's work on the groundwater. And IMI has been doing a lot of work on the shared transboundary river basins across the globe. And southern examples are that one, Southern Africa, we have worked in the part of Ramotswa aquifer, Botswana and South Africa, Tulika-Karu aquifer in Botswana, South Africa and Zambia, and Shire aquifer in Malawi and Zambia. Key thrust of our work on these shared aquifer has included the transboundary diagnostic analysis, data sharing, joint monitoring and strategic action plan. In addition to that one, IMI has been working in other part of the one on the managed aquifer recharge across the globe. Here taking the example of the India in the Ram-Ganga basin, where we started the managed aquifer recharge at the pilot site using the underground transfer of flood for irrigation initiative. And that's in 2014 when they started that initiative, and how we could have using the more rainwater during the monsoon season, additional irrigation water for storing it and using it whenever we need water. And now in 2024, there are around more than 300 sites which has many in Ram-Ganga basin has been already managed aquifer structures has been established. And that has helped improving the groundwater resilience. Also on the other aspect of that one, we are working on the transboundary, the groundwater aquifer in the context of the Pakistan and then the Afghanistan. Again, that's one of the work where we look around that one, how the water sources, and also in the context of India and Pakistan, how the groundwater sources are being shared. Because we need to think about on that one, how we could conserve the groundwater, and in the context of transboundary, how we could share the benefit as well as share the risk associated with that one. Overall, I will hope this session contribute to the lesson learning among the project experience in cooperative groundwater management. The growing body of the projects on the groundwater calls for a growing need to compare experiences and improve implementation. Let's hear from the keynote speaker and the other panelists what's happening in the transboundary river basin across the globe, and then that will be able and let's work together to achieve this goal. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks. And now we're having Elizabeth Lechtivoet, the director of IGRAC, and as you know, IGRAC was also co-organizer for the Groundwater Summit that we held in Paris in 2022. Unfortunately, she's not with us here today. She's online, yet she will be here tomorrow. This, I believe, what I know. So, Elizabeth, if you can hear me, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning, everybody, participants, colleagues. First, thank you very much to UNESCO to take the initiative of organizing this session and leading this the session and all the work. Thank you, Mahmoud. We know the workload of organizing such a session. Yes, I will be later in the week in Stockholm, so happy to continue groundwater conversation in person. So this presentation is about the new update. So I have a presentation. I hope it can be shared. Yes, but I will start. Yes, perfect. So yeah, this presentation is about the new update of the map of transboundary aquifers of the world. So just as a reminder, an aquifer is a geological formation. We can see it on the picture, within which there is water, groundwater, and there is a flow of groundwater. So when this groundwater flow cross administrative boundaries, so we speak about a transboundary aquifer. So a transboundary aquifer is a mix of physical hydrogeological concept and administrative concept. Normally, a transboundary aquifer is between two states, but we can also apply the same context at subnational level. So the map of transboundary aquifers of the world provides an overview of aquifers that cross international borders. And those shared groundwater resources that we know are invisible or largely invisible are vital for water security. And their sustainable management is a matter of international cooperation. Next slide, please. So the map of transboundary aquifer of the world is a process that started over 15 years ago. It's a long-standing cooperation between UNESCO and IGREC, and it synthesized findings from studies, from research at regional aquifer level to reflect the most up-to-date knowledge of transboundary aquifers. And on this slide, you can see example of early contributions of the regional transboundary aquifer mapping. Next slide, please. The last update of the map was in December 2021, and we are releasing this year a new edition, which objectives are to update the boundaries, the transboundary aquifer boundaries, incorporating new data, new studies, new information that has been produced since the last update and since 2021. And we added another objective, which is to collect basic descriptive information about transboundary aquifers and their boundaries to give a better sense of what the map represents and how it can be used. So this new edition has been implemented by IGREC in close collaboration with UNESCO and the International Association of Hydrologists, IAH, through its TBA commission. It's funded by UNESCO and co-funded by the government of the Netherlands through the Water and Development Partnership Program. Next slide, please. You see the verso. This is the recto of the map with the list of the transboundary aquifer and two thematics map that I will present later on. Next slide, please. And here you see the viewer, which is hosted on the GGIS, the Global Groundwater Information System, operated by IGREC. You have the link, and you see the difference between in the upper left corner, this is the 2009 edition, and the lower right corner, this is the 2021 edition. Next slide, please. So what's new in 2025? So 49 new transboundary aquifers have been added. And then the boundary of 41 existing transboundary aquifers have been revised. And 91 transboundary aquifers have been removed. That can be a bit surprising. An aquifer does not disappear. This is just the knowledge that we update. And why we removed? Because either they do not qualify as a transboundary aquifer. For example, we found out that there is an hydrogeological formation, but the new research showed that there is no groundwater flow over the boundary, for example. And others were replaced by new transboundary aquifers. So the total number of mapped transboundary aquifers to date now stands to 426. Next slide, please. So this changes show the significant challenges in mapping transboundary aquifer boundaries. It's not an easy task. It's not uncommon to find different transboundary aquifer boundaries in the literature. In such case, boundary are selected, have been selected based on the most recent, the most convincing, meaning that supported by authoritative publication or the most widely accepted between authors. So yeah, it's challenging because aquifers are in three dimension, and they are the ground formation. We cannot see anything in the surface. So it's so this is a problem where we don't have enough data and information and research. And when in instances where hydrogeological information is insufficient, so transboundary aquifers, as you can see on this example of the Silala aquifer between Chile and Bolivia, this is accepted by the two countries that there is an aquifer, there is groundwater flow, but there is still not enough information on the boundaries and agreement. So we just represent it by a simplified circular or elliptical shape. That doesn't mean that the aquifer is really circular. This is just a simplification when we don't have enough information. Next slide, please. In addition, of this year, this is we have estimated the availability of data and information for each TBA. We think that it's important for the user to know how much information is, because some TBAs, we know them, there is a lot of details, others not. So we have three categories there: limited, moderate, and good. So this is a bit, there is a certain degree of subjectivity, and we cannot rely on exhaustive literature review, but it helps anyway to distinguish TBAs, transboundary aquifers, that are based on a limited amount of data information. And in those cases, greater care need to be considered, and we know that additional research activity are needed there. Next slide, please. An important outcome of the transboundary aquifer map is the support to the SDG indicator 652 reporting. This is a very good example of science for policy to improve transboundary water management. Because as part of the SDG, the UN member states report on indicator 652, the proportion of transboundary basin area with an operational arrangement for water cooperation. So the member states list the transboundary aquifers they share with neighboring countries. And the TBA map is the technical basis for reporting transboundary groundwater management by countries under SDG 652, and is included in the methodology for reporting. Next slide, please. And so this information allows, and this is the second thematic map, for a comparison between the transboundary aquifers in the map and the transboundary aquifers reported by countries in the report, which is SDG custodians by UNESCO and UNICE. So for each TBA country, for each TBA country, the attributable mention whether the country is a reporting UN member state, whether it has reported on TBAs, and if this TBA in particular. So we can distinguish between TBAs reported by all sharing countries, or those reported by only some countries, and those not reported at all. And so, well, of course, we shouldn't interpret this with caution, because TBA boundaries are often not provided in the reports of the 652, and often have the TBAs, the transboundary aquifers, have different names. So it must be stressed that also the inclusion of SDG 652 reports does not imply political recognition on TBAs by the country concerned. Next slide, please. And in conclusion, so mapping of transboundary aquifers of the world is an ongoing process since 2009 and even earlier, but yet still challenging. So defining the limits of transboundary aquifers is crucial for transboundary groundwater management and water management. The map represents the scientific tool on which decision, agreements, and further governance and management is based. It's also important to remember that the map remains a scientific tool, scientific work with its limitation based on knowledge, which does not imply any recognition on the part of the authors or also by countries. And this is important to keep in mind. What some aquifers and regions of the world critically lack information, and more efforts are needed. And this is not the end. This is a process that need to continue because we need to continue reducing the knowledge gap. And this calls for stronger involvement and collaboration of researchers, of member states, of course, international organizations, and donors, of course. We need them. And you have the link here on the viewer on the GGIS, where the 2025 update will be available soon, probably a few days or weeks. You can follow IGREC website and social networks for the final release. Thank you very much.
Wow, very, very interesting. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for your amazing presentation. And I believe now we are trying to follow what we call Ignite presentations. And Ignite presentations that, as you know, presentation can be very long, very boring. So we're trying to give like a pitch of 3 minutes each for each project. So now you will be hearing from our 5 projects, 3 minutes each from our speakers. And after that, it will be followed with a panel among all the different speakers just to know more. And then we will allow some time for Q&A, hopefully, if we have some time. So we start with Florence Tanwi, the Science Program Officer of UNESCO in Nairobi office. And Florence, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Florence Tanwi. I'm the Program Officer of Science, as he has just mentioned. My PhD was on groundwater surface water interaction and a postdoc for policy and science interactions. So let me make my first presentation on a new project in Kilimanjaro, transboundary aquifer. So Kilimanjaro, to place you in the setting, is in East Africa, and it is a shared resource between Kenya and Tanzania. We are at the JEF BPG phase that we hope to finalize by December. And this project area is very unique in that we have a very fragile ecosystem of the Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro is still or is one of the outstanding glaciers in Africa. And this makes also the issue of groundwater very important because it supports also communities that are, indigenous and also, multi-sectoral context. And so this aquifer resource supports over 2 million people, and the groundwater resource itself is largely unknown. We don't have the knowledge to inform the governance issues that are very much limited and or required to be understood in order to make informed decisions. Elizabeth has just informed about different aquifer resources around the world, but the different challenges are unique to the context of every project. And so what these projects seek to do is to create issue or come up with solutions to the project challenges that we have. So main challenges that are witnessed within this particular area is the shrinking glaciers for sure, and the cloud forests that are being encroached and they are degraded, and therefore the issue of recharge areas are not also well protected. If you can move to the next slide. So we have designed this project within 5 key components. And these components start with the issue of understanding the resource, that is the assessment of the groundwater resource. And this will entail the mapping of the groundwater, doing hydrogeochemical studies, and also deep drilling. We intend to drill over 500 meters deep for exploratory wells. This is a volcanic suit, and therefore we want to also investigate how different fractures also control or govern the groundwater flows in the area. And another component is also looking at expanding the groundwater storage, and we will pilot manage aquifer recharge infrastructure to capture, of course, recharge waters during the wet season, and store the same for the communities to utilize soon after the rainfall events. And this aspect is something that has been tested elsewhere within also the region, and we take into consideration the fact that this is a tool, or this is an intervention that could be replicated, and therefore sustaining the efforts of meeting the water security issues for the communities. And then a third component looks at establishing monitoring networks, which at the moment we do not have, for example, water table fluctuation curves for this particular aquifer, and making it difficult to visualize the impacts of the climate change within the shared groundwater resource. And then also the project will seek to establish an hydro-environmental observatory, which will be a body for, acting for exchanging information across the border, and also becoming a convening body for, transboundary conversations in the long term. And looking at strengthening governance issues, Tanzania and Kenya have collaborated in the past in a surface water project, but never in the groundwater project. And therefore, this will also be one of the only, I guess, transboundary groundwater projects within the East Africa that will be a landmark project for, making decisions, and also looking at how transboundary cooperation in the future can be informed through this, the success of this project. And then finally looking at sharing of knowledge and inclusion. And sorry about that. I know I became a little bit slow. But we have also the issue of knowledge management. What do we do from the tools and the data that has been collected through this project, and also a series of cross-cutting issues, looking at youth engagement, indigenous communities' involvement in decision-making, and also, utilizing global platforms like IWLAN for knowledge management. Last slide. And so the question we have in the room is, are we a little bit too late to act? And these photographs present unique or issues that are outstanding in the region. We have Majimoto well field, which is one of our well field that has, some artesian wells with very, great yields, and that remains also something that we need to investigate to see how we can sustain these yields going, or even improve them in the future. And then there's one spring called Chemka Spring. This spring, the communities report in the past, there were jets or water oozing out from this spring, but it is quiet at the moment because of declining flows, and therefore this really shows that there might be some human-driven issues that are causing the decline in water flows, but also the issues of climate change as well. And then there's the issue of water quality, where we have the fluoride, very high level of fluoride in the water, and one of the issues that we want to look at is the interventions around the water treatment solutions. UNESCO has piloted this within the Arusha, but we want to upscale this further through this particular project to caution the communities against, drinking poor quality water, and this is also a contribution to SDG 652. And we are at the PPG phase, as I mentioned, and we hope to finalize the same by December. Thank you very much.
We will take out one question from you. Okay, now we have Boban Jolovic, the project officer of the Dictus 2 project, and he's with us online. Boban, you have the floor. 3 minutes, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mahmoud. I hope you hear me.
Yes, perfect. Go ahead.
Yeah. Just briefly about the project. The Dictus 2 project is practically an implementation of the strategic action program for the Danari-Karst aquifer system, with working name improving groundwater governance and sustainability of related ecosystems. It's actually fully GEF financed project implemented by 2 UN bodies, UNDP and UNESCO. Actually, it's the first ever global attempt to introduce sustainable and integrated management principles in transboundary karst freshwater aquifers. In this case, on the scale of the dynamic karst system located in southeastern Europe, which is one of the largest karst groundwater aquifer systems Europe and worldwide. There is 4 participation countries: Albania, Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Croatia. At the global level, the project aims at focusing the attention of the international community on the huge but very vulnerable water resources contained in dominantly carbonated rock formations, which are actually globally widespread, but usually poorly understood. The base for Dictas 2 project is Dictas 1 project, completed in the period between 2010 and 2014, where main goal of the stage 1 of the project is in general regional better understanding of this aquifer system, but also focus was on identification of the main issues of the concerns between the 4 countries regarding groundwater management in karst areas. Based on the national findings of 4 country experts, but also representative of the authorities, key issues of the concerns were reflected in the main technical document of the stage 1. It's in standard JEF procedure, transboundary diagnostic analysis, and then these concerns were actually based for identification of 3 key strategic actions of strategic action program. The first one is application and promotion of the joint principles of sustainable management and equitable use of transboundary diagnostic karst aquifers. The next one is related with the joint design and testing of the regional groundwater quantity and quality monitoring network and associated data exchange and the protocols. And last, harmonization of the criteria of the sanitary protection zone, what is really big challenge in the region. We have 4 countries with 4 different criteria and approaches to protection of the karst waters, and of course countries decide that this is one of the really necessary priority action. Priority actions are then reflected as 5 key project components in project identification form. The project objective of Dictas 2 is to catalyze effective multi-country cooperation for sustainable management of this aquifer system, but also this time with emphasized focus on ecological resources by strengthening of national and regional groundwater governance frameworks and institutional capacities. Project components could be considered as both institutionally focused, as those related with improving of groundwater governance, including also legal policy adaptation, but also those on ground in nature, because we plan in 2 transboundary aquifers to establish the very comprehensive and with some new modern techniques groundwater monitoring with many challenges related with the karst. The project is at the end in line with the JEF call global framework for action and intend to set the basis of sound groundwater governance in this time in 4 countries of southeastern Europe, but furthermore which will be worldwide applicable, including the conclusion of 1 multilateral agreement. We are in the stage of the preparation of this agreement between 4 countries, and sincerely hope we will have a first draft in the mid of the next year. More specifically, when it's necessary, we will also foster conclusion of the bilateral agreements or adaptation of some available. Also based on the comprehensive groundwater governance diagnostic analysis, we will propose and give some proposals of legal policy adaptations, not just the list, but also concrete actions and some law and sub-law documents. As insisted by the countries in this stage, we want to demonstrate groundwater monitoring as a key tool for the really good practice in the groundwater management. Of course, all this will be followed by stakeholder involvement, included also private sector, NGO, and so on. And for the first time, with comprehensive gender analysis on the national scale, but then based on these findings, we will also provide regional gender analysis, and think that the findings of this analysis will trigger many processes regarding the gender issues in the countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Baban. Thank you so much for your intervention. And now from East Africa, went to Balkans, back again to the Mediterranean. So I give the floor to Michel Frame, and this is the closest to my heart as well. Why? Because he's the youngest speaker right around. So Michel was serving as a national consultant during the mid program. So Michel, please, you have the floor. 3 minutes.
Yeah, I have my timer. Yes, thank you. Hi everyone. So I'll be speaking about the management of coastal aquifers in the Mediterranean. As you know, the majority of the global population lives in coastal areas, and the Mediterranean is no exception to this rule. Coastal aquifers are of crucial importance to people and also to groundwater-dependent ecosystems like coastal wetlands and lagoons, etc. And as you know, the Mediterranean Sea is also receiving some marine groundwater discharges from these coastal aquifers. So this is also something that countries should be looking at, because those discharges can be quite considerable in terms of amount, and they are important for nearshore ecosystems. So the objective of this project was to enhance water security of coastal populations while also looking at the resilience to climate variabilities and changes. And it took place in different countries: Morocco, Tunisia, Libya, Montenegro, and Albania, where we had a transboundary aquifer, and also in Lebanon, my country. Focusing on Lebanon, where my work was mostly taking place, we had several challenges, like the coastal aquifers are mostly stressed by over abstraction and then seawater intrusion as a consequence. And here you see the study area that we focused on. We had to work on this with lack of data. However, the ministry gave us all the data they had, but that was not really enough. So we took other approaches to cover these gaps. Field campaigns were also cancelled because of regional tensions, so you can imagine it was a bit of a challenging exercise. So it's a challenging exercise, so I went back to studies that were done before my parents were born. So in 1970, I harnessed data from these studies. I digitized the seawater intrusion line from 1970, and then compared it to a study that was recently done in 2022. That was one aspect. Then I also digitized many of those cross sections to try to know where the aquifer limits are in terms of horizontal and vertical distances. And the sea is, again, very important for this exercise, and this was done for the conceptual understanding and also for the vulnerability mapping that we used also here to understand the vulnerability of this aquifer from horizontal and vertical sides. So vertical, it's from the threats from pollutants, and horizontal from seawater intrusion. And that's the result of this exercise. I don't have time to detail the methodology, and this map alone is not very useful. So we had to, because of the comprehensive vulnerability map, then we add to it the pollution sources and pollution targets to assess this with the risks also that will take place in this area. And this exercise was not the only one, so we also looked at groundwater-dependent ecosystems, and in this case, we took the riparian vegetation of a coastal river as an example. Lack of data and inability to do field missions pushed us to work on remote sensing, which was also nice because we looked at different vegetation indices and then combined them with base flow separation methods to assess the variability or the interlinkages, correlation, etc. between vegetation indices variability, spatiotemporal variability, and the variability of base flow. This was also not alone because we also looked at the submarine groundwater discharges. We developed a methodology for further exploration of those submarine groundwater discharges, and we identified one as a national priority. Finally, to make this happen, we had to do a lot of coordination meetings in Paris because it was a project with many countries, and then we shared our insights also locally in many national dialogues in Lebanon with stakeholders and local communities. Finally, call to action, prioritize monitoring as a cornerstone for development and research. We have many international organizations and funders and donors here, so please focus on monitoring as a first step. Second, this will help in developing informed and inclusive decision-making approaches. And finally, trust and engage youth. They can do the job. Thank you.
Fantastic timing. Thank you so much. And from the Mediterranean, back again to Africa, because Africa is priority for UNESCO, as you know. So we're having Jonathan Lautzi, research group leader at IWMI. Jonathan, you have the floor.
Okay, thanks, Mahmoud, and good to see the room full with people. This is great so far. It's been three good preceding case studies. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So as Mahmoud just said, I'm going to, in 3 minutes, give a rapid overview of a project we call Groundwater for Advancing Resilience in Africa. EMI is the executing agency. It goes through FAO as the implementer, and there's also a range of other partners. It's nice to see some of those in the room. Mono Basin Authority for one, but also SADC GMI, AMCAL, the African Ministers' Council on Water, EASA, who's based in Austria, and perhaps one or two others that I may not be coming to the tip of my tongue. Okay, so why does this project matter? Basically, the short answer is that the potential for groundwater in Africa is far from fully tapped. There's growing recognition. I think Mahmoud was alluding to an event 3 years ago where this probably came through to some extent as well. But there's growing recognition that you can further draw on Africa's water resources in a strategic and informed way to advance a range of development aims, some of which are shown here. And I think you heard my colleague Mohsen refer to those earlier. So things like food security, climate resilience, I know which aligns well with the focus of this year's World Water Week, and then also domestic water supply. So the aim, to boil it down, or the objective, is to enhance water security and resilience in Africa, unlocking the potential of sustainable groundwater development and protection. There's a QR code here with our project website. If you're interested to learn more about our project, we update it at least once a month with a range of stories. In terms of the structure, the design of this project, just very, very briefly, I hope I'm not killing too much time. On the bottom left corner, you see the kind of component framework. So the aim is to elevate groundwater at an Africa-wide level. And that really includes both transboundary aquifers and national. And so we have a first component there, which is called strategic planning. It's led by our partners at the African Ministers' Council on Water. And it does things like developing Pan-African strategies, Pan-African visions, some of which focus on groundwater, some of which groundwater filters into. Second component, just next to it on evidence and capacity, is led by our partners at EASA, developing a dashboard to understand opportunities and risks for groundwater development in Africa. Third component, right in the center there, focuses on a set of case studies. We wanted to do, not just create a policy and paper, which is important, but also do stuff on the ground, document and learn from it, and then channel that upward and disseminate it. I'm not going to go into the case studies. You see the little pins on the map, but I will flag that in the room we have Mono Basin Authority. One of our case studies focuses on the Mono Basin Kita Aquifer. Fourth area is youth. I know something Mahmoud has been repeatedly referring to and we view as quite positive. We're actively engaging youth, developing a youth forum, and then integrating that across the project. Fifth component is knowledge management, M&E. Let's go. There we go. Challenge, again, to reiterate, what's the challenge we're tackling? Groundwater is overlooked. We need to put it more on the table as a critical resource for the continent to utilize. So why is it? What's driving this challenge? Why aren't we doing this more? This really drove the formulation of the project. Knowledge, I think Elizabeth referred to this earlier, I think in her map of the transboundary aquifers. It was nice to see her develop an indicator, how much knowledge, how much data we have on each aquifer. So that's a critical knowledge gap or critical gap or limitation for addressing groundwater. Visibility as well, it's overlooked. And then the scarcity of management and coordination. You know, a lot of attention is placed on transboundary aquifers, not enough cooperation on them, but equally in countries, we may overlook groundwater and the aquifers that are national. How much activity is there on those? So that's another issue. Wrapping up, some of the change we're making, what are we doing about it in this project? I flagged this earlier, but collaborating with AMCAL, to develop a strategic program on groundwater for water security and resilience, but equally collaborating with AMCAL to get groundwater into the Africa Water Vision, which I think they're seeking approval on next month. Developing a dashboard, I flagged this earlier. This is driven by EASA for groundwater opportunity and risk in Africa. Improving monitoring. Again, Elizabeth was flagging the constraints around knowledge and monitoring, and it was nice, I think, to hear Florence referred to this also in the Kilimanjaro project, but improving monitoring of 3 shared aquifer systems, again, one of which is in the room in Mono Basin. Experience sharing, learning across these 3 shared systems and channeling up the lessons through to AMCAL for dissemination. youth involvement, and then repeatedly disseminating project experiences through platforms like IW Learn, who we're going to hear from later. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. And now from Africa, we fly to Latin America. Ricardo, can you hear me? We're having Ricardo, who's going to present on the Guarani Aquifer. Ricardo, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Please go
ahead.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mahmoud. Dear colleagues, thank you for this moment. I'm presenting the project, please, the first slide. I'm presenting the project called Implementation of the Strategic the Strategic Action Program of the Aquifer Guarani System, enabling regional actions. In fact, in this project, we not just implemented the Strategic Action Program, but also updated it with climate change topics, ecosystem services, gender, and other actual important things that were priority for the countries. Why this project matters? Because Guarani Aquifer Systems is one of the, of course, the largest global freshwater reserves in the world, and of course in Latin America. It's estimated in 1 million, more than 1 million square kilometers, and it's a strategic reserve for the 4 countries for water supplies, tourism, agriculture, and other activities, economic activities, also for the ecosystems, and for more than 90 million people in these 4 countries, Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay. We have the first agreement for transboundary groundwater in Latin America. It was signed in 2010, and then it took in force just in 2024, considering the force and the movement of this project. It's a project financed by JEF, implemented by CAF, and executed by UNESCO. Of course, this agreement is very important and respect the sovereignty of the countries. And we had a strategic action program or plan that was designed in 2009 when there was a first project in the final of this first project, but this strategic action program wasn't executed by the countries in a regional perspective. Of course, each country developed its own process, but not in a regional perspective. Next, please. So we are finalizing this project. We are in this moment of making the evaluations, the final evaluations. Of course, in 3 components, governance, let's say management, and also stakeholders involvement. And what are our challenges in this context? First is governance challenge. We developed a very interesting culture of working together by the countries in technical committees. So we developed in the monitoring committee, we implemented a pilot network of monitoring wells. We bought equipment for the wells. We drill wells also for the countries. So now the thing is how the committees will follow up with their work, considering we develop a very interesting process together. Of course, we develop plans, and I will talk about this in the next slide. In a management perspective, we have this challenge to continue developing the network. So this is very important. Sorry, the slide. Yeah, please. So we have this monitoring network that has to be continuously monitored, and then it has to grow and develop. So the countries has this challenge to continue developing the pilot network, and also engagement of the sectors that we work together: the private sector, users, academia, scientific community, government, and civil society. Because we try to engage all them in this process, and also to connect the update of the strategic action plan with their perspective and with national policies to make it continuously developed by regional perspective. Okay, next, please. This is just the steering committee. The last meeting, we approved the SAP, the Strategic Action Plan 2000-2025, and also the climate change strategic network that we workshop that we developed, and we find here the network of monitoring wells. Next, please, the system that we developed. Next, please. So, what are the challenge? What are the change we did here in this project? First, not just the work culture, we developed guidelines and planning for the technical committees of the project. So the committees finalized the project with a very interesting plan to continue working regionally in the cooperation process. It's a project about preventing conflicts, of course. It's preventing by diplomacy and by all this technical process. We develop and implement, of course, the monitoring network and the information exchange system. Each country has its own information exchange system, and the challenge is to use this regional and shared information exchange system. It was, let's say, the biggest, I think, the biggest challenge of this project, because it was a very challenging to harmonize the technical perspective of the countries. And finally, to connect, to maintain the connections between the stakeholders, institutions, and strengthen national processes connecting to the regional process. So this is our understanding of what we could develop for the regional agreement. And now it's with the Commission. The Commission will take place and try to bring other projects and continuation of this process. That's it. Yeah, this is a picture of the Guarani region in Brazil that we were meant to visit. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ricardo. Now I invite Jonathan for quick panel questions to the panelists, and also I can invite you to the floor, but also Florence, please, if you can, just to save time, and Michel, Ricardo, and Uban, if you can stay online.
Okay, great. I am interpreting, Mahmoud, we're a little bit behind on time, so I'm guessing we have maybe 20-ish minutes. So to structure the panel discussion, I wanted to kind of put the set of examples in a brief, simple framework. Not all of this may have come through in every presentation, or if it did, maybe it didn't sink in. It was a lot in rapid succession. So I did want to just frame briefly that these projects are at various scales, and that they're in various stages of implementation. So two of them, the one that Florence coordinates and mine, are, you could say, in their initial stages. She's at what's called PPG stage, and if you're unfamiliar with Jeff terminology, this is at basically project preparation stage. It really hasn't gotten started yet. The one I coordinate, did we lose the image? So that's the Kilimanjaro one. So basically it's getting started. The one I coordinate, which is Groundwater for Advancing Resilience in Africa, is in its initial year. So those two are fairly newish, you could say, and then the other three are at an advanced or completed stage. So I stand to be corrected on this, but my understanding is Dictus is about to be completed. Guarani has been completed, and the Mediterranean Coastal Aquifers project that my colleague is involved in will be completed in the next few months. So basically, we can learn different things from different projects, or projects at different stages. Another kind of wrinkle on this, three of the projects are quite geographically focused. So it was interesting that this came out in the presentations when we were, and the examples when we were looking at them. So certain of them look at specific aquifers. like the Kilimanjaro aquifer or the Guarani. So they're geographically focused. Others are, you could say, geographically dispersed. So the one Michel to my right here, the one he was involved with, looked at 6, if I got it right, 6 case studies around the Mediterranean. The one I'm involved with looks at the Pan-Africa level, and then 3 case studies within Africa. So, so with that context, let's fire into questions. Basically, the first one, we'd like to hear, we heard a lot just now. So if we could distill it down a bit and say, what were some of the biggest direct impacts or biggest achievements? I'm going to pick on the bottom left there, the 2 that are complete or near complete and geographically focused. And maybe start with the dictas, Boban. Could you drill it down, distill it down? What is 1 or 2 of your biggest single achievements? Simple terms. Boban, could you offer up a response on that? Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan. The first what I want to mention that we are practically at the very beginning of the implementation stage. We finalized preparation of strategic action program, and these days we are implementation stage, but we are at the very beginning. My intention and the intention of the project in this moment is for the first to finalize a multilateral agreement between the countries, because without this agreement, we are not on the right way to do much more. I want to emphasize that 3 or 4 participating countries are former Yugoslav members, but today, without any multilateral agreement about the cooperation within the Dinaric caste. Based on this agreement, which is in stage of the preparation, we also intend to put on the lower level these things and prepare some bilateral agreements, and at the end for 6 for each transboundary aquifer action plans. I think that will be the great institutional impact of this project. On the other side, we have the 2 comprehensive monitoring programs in.
Boban, I'm going to jump in. Given time constraints, the aim of this was to orient to 1 or 2 high-level things. So you've already given more than enough. So that's been great. I want to move on to Ricardo. So let's see if we have it right this time. So the Guarani Aquifer project, as we understand, was complete, and I think you're in a gap period moving on to another phase, potentially. Is that right, Ricardo?
Yeah, it's right. The Commission is working in a full project.
Good.
And of course, the SAP, the new SAP, defined the priority and prioritize the actions. Perfect.
Okay, good. So could you talk about 1 or 2 of your key achievements? And actually, now that your project is complete, I mean, this gives us the opportunity to ask a question around sustainability of achievements or sustainability of impacts. So I think you talked about like a shared data system. Can you talk about, how's that doing post-project? Because I think a lot of us in this room have worked in the development world. Impacts don't always sustain. Could you talk about 1 or 2 large achievements and how sustained are those achievements? Thanks.
Okay, the information system is one big achievement, and the challenge is for the countries to use it. So we connect their own national system with this regional system, and to make it grow. This is the point. And they developed a strategy to know what is the next wells that will be incorporated in the SAP, in the new SAP. The second is that we produced a new SAP very connected with the national policies. So this can give a very sustainable perspective for developing a regional process connected to the national ones. So this is another topic that we understand it's very important to the sustainability of the project.
Okay, great. And I think the third project that's nearing completion, or next few months we'll get there, is Michel, is the Mediterranean project to my right. Could you drill it down or distill it down to 1 or 2 major achievements from your work? Thanks.
I will maybe give 1 global and 1 maybe very local to my project, to my component. So a direct global achievement was that we proved that a project had taking place in very different contexts. So these countries have different governance frameworks. They have different types of aquifers that we address. They have different challenges. We proved that this project can take place even and reach good results, even if it's taking place in many different contexts with different also maybe consultants having different ideas. But we all managed to finalize and achieve our objectives. So that's also interesting in terms of multinational projects, let's say. And a very local one that when I was assigned this consultancy, I wanted also to have a local direct impact on the people, not only for the project itself and myself. So this vulnerability map that I showed before, and when we put those pollution sources and pollution targets on it, we finally produced a table with every municipality, every village, giving it the vulnerability value for its aquifer and indicating if it has pollution sources and pollution targets. So we have a very comprehensive table that we also shared with those local stakeholders and with the ministries in many national dialogues, and it's already there, and they can take use of it. So we made also a direct impact on land use planning and policies or strategies that can take place on the ground.
Okay, that's excellent. Yeah. So you alluded to something there which was quite interesting, the scale issue, which I was flagging earlier, and you just mentioned that you're distributed around 6, if I remember right, different case studies. Is it 6?
Morocco, Tunisia, Libya, Lebanon, and 5.
5 case studies.
But 6 countries, because one of them is transboundary.
Okay, 6 case studies, 5 countries around the. So to what extent was that great, and you were able to distill broader lessons from synthesizing across the case studies, and to what extent did that constitute a management challenge? Do you have any reflections on this?
That's probably something that the project managers from UNESCO had to deal with directly. We looked at this during the consultation meetings, the coordination meetings that we had in Paris. For us, it was to learn from each other. So sometimes one country is in a more advanced phase than the other, so we can already see the challenges that others are facing, so we can take the shortcut, not shortcut, but like take the solutions to avoid this bottleneck that others are facing. So those coordination meetings, I guess, were also key to overcome kind of challenges and also to achieve our objectives together.
Okay, great. Yeah. And the issue of challenges, I mean, it's there, whether we like to acknowledge it or not. And so maybe we can just spend a couple more minutes on that one. I don't know, Florence, you'd like to, you had an interesting gestation period, I think, on your Kilimanjaro project. Would you like to offer any thoughts, flag any challenges, and give some sort of perspective on how you responded to those in the Kilimanjaro? Thanks.
Yeah, so thank you. So the Kilimanjaro project is actually a project that has been, the countries expressed interest more than 7 years ago, and without success, they developed the concept, and several times of submission, it never got to the approval stage. So one of the successes that we have seen is the commitment of the two governments to really work together to develop a transboundary project. So that by itself is something that, as UNESCO, we want to sustain the interest of the countries to continue collaborating. And also one of the other lessons learned is that the issue of real-time on-ground activities that the countries want them to be implemented, like the issue of the managed aquifer recharge issues, are some of their own expression of what they need to happen in order to caution them from the water scarcity issue. And then on the issue of the Kilimanjaro itself is an ecosystem with very diverse stakeholders, ranging from tourism to agriculture, that is on food security, and on to the environmental aspects as well, sustaining the wildlife. So you can already see that we have all these stakeholders expressing interest to support, the efforts that will be undertaken by this project. So I think I can stop there, but rather to say as well, since we are at the start of, or at the PPG phase, we also have, an opportunity to learn from the other, JEF projects that are on completion or even in their implementation stage. So we can see a lot of milestones that we can achieve from this. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I want to ask colleagues online, Boban and Ricardo. The thread of discussion now is challenges and how you respond to them. Maybe Boban, would you like to offer any reflection on this? Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Jonathan. There is always challenges, of course. For the example, one of the main challenges for us is because we have, for the example, two countries share transboundary aquifers, and 90% of the recharging area is in country A. I will call country A. Just 10% is, for the example, in country B. But country B is a total user of the water. There is always question in a country A why they need to protect and provide so many protection measures in country to prevent many things regarding agriculture, mining, and so on, to prevent something what is used in the country B. And it's really a challenge to explain the country A what is necessary to do and why they is obliged to provide protection of something what will be used in country B. It's general principle, not just in this project.
Okay, great. And Ricardo, in your presentation earlier, I think you were talking about some challenges around harmonization. Would you like to offer any quick thoughts on that or something else related to challenge? And then what did you do? How did you get across? How did you respond to that? How did you get the countries to harmonize? Any quick inputs on this? Thanks.
Yeah. We have always to work with asymmetries, right? Asymmetries of knowledge, of technology, of money, infrastructure. So the point is to, in my point of view, is to be very transparent with this, this point, with the asymmetries between the countries, and in a cooperative proposal, design what is important to reduce these asymmetries, to work in a regional perspective. And normally the countries are very generous in this process, and they can work together and help to reduce these asymmetries and make this collective process very interesting for all of them.
Okay, great. So transparency, I think, is something you're flagging. That's great. Okay, I want to keep it moving here. Something Mahmoud has been...
Transparency and dialogue, sorry.
Sorry, transparency and dialogue. Okay, great. Interaction, cool. As I said, I want to keep it moving onto something Mahmoud has been flagging, which is very important, youth, and also gender. So I think approaches are advancing fairly rapidly on these fronts. So one of the advantages a project like Florence may have, and that it's coming along most recently, is your approaches may be the most cutting edge compared to some of ours that were formulated a few years ago. Maybe can you talk about in the Kilimanjaro project, how you're working to incorporate youth and accommodate gender? Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much. And I'll just pick up from, the population within the East Africa is mostly comprised by the youth. And so these are the people that we see that the change can be done through their cooperation. And so what we have done is to constantly ensure that there are youth presence within our engagement meetings, and also whether it is online or physical events. But also recently, when we requested countries to form the technical working groups to support the development of the product, is that we have youth expertise as well in the room, and therefore their voices are heard. And then also UNESCO with cooperation with UNFCU. Recently, we completed a claim that we were raising the awareness about the project as well. But citizen science initiatives led by the youth as well was one of the activities that was incorporated into that particular climb. And so the youth that was sponsored were also from Kenya and the Tanzania equally. But what was interesting is, their understanding, or they are taking part in doing the simple water quality measurements as well. And so that is the energy that we want to carry forward, and also ensuring that innovation driven by the youth can be incorporated into the various perspectives of the project. And we have tailored the components to ensure that there is youth driven activities as well within each and every project component. And also the issue of gender is we just don't want the women in the room, but what was the women in the room doing is the approach that we want to take, because most of the times we count, the number of women in the room, but their voices are not really very heard. And so we intend to be more intentional when we have meetings. We have the roles of women speaking as well in those particular meetings, and also going forward into the activities, especially on the issues of the conservation of the cloud forests. We have, we will be working with a private sector as well, and we ensure that the indigenous communities where women are also represented are taking part in this. So we can see a whole range of their presence really within the project.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's really interesting. I just want to ask the same question to Michelle. How did you incorporate youth and gender into the context of the Mediterranean project? Thanks.
So my component particularly was mostly research focused. So it was a kind of assignment, like we had to do a certain objective, which is mostly technical in my case, but the project itself includes many other components. So those national dialogues that are taking place in all the countries are the main opportunity where we are engaging with youth and women. And going back to what Simone mentioned, that UNESCO itself is trying to incorporate youth directly in their project. So when they first gave me this opportunity, I personally took it as a mission for the global youth to show UNESCO and other international organizations that youth can do the job, can be your consultants on the project. So I took it personally. And that's how I wanted to give this message that we can do the job and believe in youth and being consultant or your scientists. So also here we have private sector. Please don't mention that you need 10 years of experience because we don't have it and we are young. So,
yeah. Okay, great. Okay, yeah. So I think Mahmoud is nudging me to solicit questions from the audience. The next question was supposed to be about private sector, which is something that Michelle just mentioned also. So maybe on that note, rather than us talking about how we attempt to incorporate private sector, maybe that could be a thread in the audience. So if people are unaware, private sector is something that we're actively encouraged to incorporate into our GEF projects, and it's obviously good. But notoriously difficult, I guess you can say, that it's not often done. A lot of GEF projects do struggle to get extensive private sector involvement. I think there was 13, which is something like pushing a quarter of the people in this room, maybe 20%, are from the private sector. That may be a conversation thread, but questions can come as you see fit. And I think, is it Mahmoud that's going to drive this next five or so minutes? Over to you.
Yes, like if you want to have any intervention from the floor, if you want to start also private sector, please let us know. Okay, we will start with...
Not purely private sector, but we can use it in that way. Florence, it's a question for you, and I suppose also a comment, and I'll bring the private sector into that. I was wondering why you put inclusion under knowledge or with knowledge instead of with governance in your 5, I think it was, strategic objectives. So that's the question. But my comment is that, and this is where the private sector would come in, is that social inclusion of stakeholders, I mean, it's not that it's not part of knowledge, but it's really important for governance of groundwater, which is a very local and transboundary resource, local in use, and I think private sector need to be part of those governance arrangements, and I think we need to take possibly a very different, broader perspective on inclusion. Thanks.
Thanks, Susan. Florence, if you can have give short answers so that we can try to take short questions as well, as much as we can.
Yeah, just to clarify that for the sake of the PowerPoint, I summarized the name of the component, but really we have knowledge management not just as a standalone component, but it is part of the water management and governance, which also looks at all the frameworks for transboundary governance into the incorporation into the project. Then the issue of inclusion is well captured in within the social aspect of the project, where we want to look at gender mainstreaming, and this is something that is cross-cutting, so we have just basically, included gender mainstreaming and social safeguard issues within all the cutting across all the components. Thank you.
And something also in the youth, I think we missed to mention that during the past 50 years anniversary, like in June, we held the first UNESCO Youth Dialogue in which we incorporated 40 different youth organizations and asked them if they wish to propose like a strategy for youth inclusion in different projects. And they came out with this fantastic strategy. It's online, you can check it on. And there will be a session on Thursday at 9 a.m. Also, you might wish to see how we are trying to engage youth more. So other questions?
Yes, thank you very much. Jean Lapeg from ACF. It was a question for IGRAC, so I don't know if Elizabeth is still with us. Maybe she is. So first, congratulations for the fantastic work. But my question was more about so we have this layer about the mapping of TBAs. We know also that in this context of climate crisis, there's going more pressure on the resource, especially about the chemical quality of the aquifers. And so because the mapping is going to lead to governance and to negotiations, I wanted to know if at what point we are going to have also a level of contamination of TBAs in order to possibly engage countries to control the pollution of the aquifers. Thank you.
Suppose we take 2-3 questions and then we can answer them all at once so that we can have also very quick answers. Any other questions that we wish to have? Yes.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. My name is Maha Ismail from Nile Basin Initiative. My question goes to Florence. Florence, why Kilimanjaro? Why not Morunguru? If we are talking about social and economic need, we know that the socio-economic need is very high at Morunguru as it's a crater, and water supply is very limited. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Any other questions before we take the answer to 2 questions? Okay, amazing. We have 2 answers. So Elizabeth, last one.
Thank you. My name is Malin. I'm with CIWI. I'm a research advisor. So I'm thinking, I've heard a few of you mentioning on how to protect and improve the yields of water from the groundwater. And to what extent do you think about the ecosystems, the restoring degraded ecosystems in that sense? Thanks.
Are you directing question to anyone specifically? Or okay, maybe we take the answer of Elizabeth and then Florence and then anyone who wishes to answer the last question, please go ahead. Elizabeth, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. So quickly. No, for the moment, it's not planned to integrate quality data into the transboundary aquifer map, but what a good idea. But you know, it's already challenging about quantity, groundwater levels, boundaries, so quality is even more challenging. But at IGRAC, we have started collecting groundwater quality data with countries. So this is in process, and some of those are in transboundary aquifer. So this is something that we hope in the near future we can give more insight. This is very important, no doubt on this. So that will be hopefully soon we can work on that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Florence, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm going to be very quick in responding to this. And I will start with why Kilimanjaro. And this is really a question of where do the countries need the project. And so the selection of the area was mostly informed by the interest of the countries to create a transboundary project within that particular Kilimanjaro. But for Morunguru, it just shows that we have opportunities to really do this, even to expand at a larger scale. And so that is an opportunity for another project as well. And then going to the issue of a question, I could okay.
No, but maybe Boban, would you like to answer the last question if you wish? In 10 seconds? If not, like Florence.
I could also, yeah.
Okay, Florence, please go
ahead.
Yeah,
so on ecosystems, because that is one of the activities that we want to implement, is that we have set to restore 4,000 kilometer square of cloud forest, because this is degraded because of agriculture expanding fields. And also within the protected areas, that is within the game reserves, we have over 17,000 square kilometers of the area to be restored. And we have put together in place, mechanisms on how we are going to achieve this. And the question of why do we do that is because of the groundwater recharge zones, and of course the other benefiting ecosystem services related to that as well. Thank you.
Thanks. And definitely we are all here in case you have any questions after the session, but we used to have the closing remarks from Konstantina Tilly, the Jeff IW Learn coordinator in UNESCO IOC. Please, Konstantina, have the floor.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So I have this impossible task to summarize a session where we speak about the lifeline, groundwater being the lifeline for climate adaptation in like 1.5 minutes. So, like me, I will just focus on the 3 key messages, at least the ones that I could understand as key messages out of this session, what we're missing. Knowledge. We saw, that what are the impacts from shrinking glaciers, and then we have erratic rainfall, rising demand, but then when it comes to groundwater, basin monitoring is often lacking. We don't know exactly how much water we have, and of course, we don't know the quality of water. So this has been a message across all aquifers that we heard from in Africa, Asia, Latin America. Critical data gaps that leave decision makers blind. So modern harmonized monitoring systems and robust scientific mapping of aquifers, as stressed by ICRAC, they are not optional. They are preconditions for sound water management. Second, governance. Groundwater, as you know, does not respect borders. You know that, we've seen it, and we saw even groundwaters vanishing from the map. But without frameworks for data sharing, for joint planning, for accountability, then overuse and pollution will continue being unchecked. So, but when the countries, communities, institutions, academia work together, and when all stakeholders, including youth, including indigenous peoples, including the private sector, when they are all engaged in the dialogue and in the decision-making process, then some of these initiatives, as some of these initiatives have shown, then we can start talking about sustainable management of groundwater resources. Third, innovation investment. This session has shown that solutions exist, from nature-based solutions for aquifer recharge, advanced pollution tracking that targets hotspots. Solutions are there. The enablers are also there. So integrated climate-smart groundwater management models that deliver results on the ground, they are available. But innovation needs scale, and scale needs long-term investment from governments, from donors, from the private sector, to move from promising pilots to transformative impact. And now you will say, Konstantina, you have a Jeff on your title. Yes. So on behalf of the Global Environment Facility, I would like to say, to reiterate the commitment of the GEF to continue beyond these projects that were actually already presented here, to continue supporting groundwater projects and conjunctive water management because of the importance of groundwater in our lives, in the environment, and in our economies. And we will see that also, in GEF 9, the next replenishment period. But again, it's not only GEF. GEF only provides this incremental funding, this seed funding, and then we should be looking, for broader solutions to scale up all these solutions. Thank you very much.
This is fantastic. Thank you so much, Konstantina. And by this, I think our session is concluded. Thank you so much, and apologies for the 2 minutes delay. I hope you enjoyed the session. We keep in touch. You can contact any of us. We are always there, always responsible. Please feel free to get in touch with any of the speakers after the session, and see you in future sessions. Many thanks.